80% of the closes happen after 5 visits. Keep that in mind. All right, so you're not doing anything bad, or don't think that, oh my gosh, I suck because you haven't closed them. This is just another numbers game. And if you went up to them 1, 2 times, most likely that's not gonna do it. You're gonna have to keep on going, creating a rapport, especially with the cold markets. They don't know you, and especially when you're dealing with a different generation than yourself. They're based more on communication, relationship. Okay, so I'm not going to go into all these different aspects of mentalities of baby boomers versus Gen X and Gen Y, but just to kind of simplify, you kind of have an understanding. Okay, we'll go more detail into it, but personalities, Gen Ys. Okay, you're a Gen Y, all right? You got the Gen X's, the boomers. Boomers are basically born from 1946 to 64. Okay, they're most of the business owners out there. What is their mentality and their personality? Kind of think of it this way. They're like the big brother or the big sibling, the older sibling, okay? Proud of their organization, that they're proud of being a baby boomer, and basically they have that particular behavior of an older sibling. Does that make sense? Where the Gen X is like the middle forgotten child, right? And then the Gen Ys are like more the naive, kind of a me, myself, and I spoiled generation. Okay, so that's just kind of like the generalization. And then on top of that, what is the personalities? Or boomers, you got to create a relationship with them. Okay, often they like to communicate in a longer fashion. It's not direct, right? In other words, they like stories. They like to talk about and building relationships. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Where the Gen Xers, they want it to be pretty quick. What is it? Don't tell me all this other stuff. Tell me what it is. All right. So you've got to get right to the point. All right. In the most effective way. The Gen Ys, similar. They're also a similar amount with boomers, right? But they have a very, very leery mentality. What does that mean? They have a lack of trust because they've seen their families, they've seen the government, they've seen all these kind of corruptions more than any other generation. So with them, their attitude is show me, before they kind of believe it. So little differences. So if you understand that, a Gen Y going to a boomer, you cannot speak to them like a Gen Y or Gen Xer. You have to go to them and speak their language. Communication is not just speaking or two people speaking. It's helping to understand what you are trying to portray to them. Okay? The other thing, going back to what you were saying earlier, is that you have to create value before talking about the product and the services. Okay? You have to build it up before you go into it. If you just go to, I've seen moments where people go, well, they'll try to get to the cut to the chase. They try to get, well, how much is this? Don't let them control your conversation. All right, and we'll talk about how to build that and how to work on that. You have to create value. When they start asking these kind of questions, why is it, how do we know this company will not go out of business, or how long will they last? And all of these questions is because they haven't really understood the value of the system. Because if they really did understand, their mentality would be, oh, okay, no big deal. $5.99, I'll throw it down, it should be fine. Okay, because anybody who advertises or who has advertised in any kind of other forms, whether radio, print, or television, understands just because you advertise doesn't mean you're going to get tons of returns. Okay, that's a foolish thought. You're doing it to create exposure, and then you're playing a numbers game. The more eyeballs that see it, the more potential of more customers or more sales that you have. Does it make sense? So, when we create value, they need to understand it is a very, very low price, and just for that reason, so that they can be able to try this system out while we're populating it. They have to understand the value of the system, how it works, Why? Why Facebook? Why social media? And then we'll talk more about that, okay? But the value creating that is essential to a sale. Otherwise, you just throw down, let's say, $5.99. They don't know how to equate it. Is that a good value? Is that expensive? Is it not? They don't know how to gauge it. So that's when, objections come up. Well, what if you guys are just a fly-by-night? There's a lot of these kind of objections, which we can respond to that, all right? And why don't we just respond to it, okay? That is what we call a credibility objection, okay? First of all, understand when a person asks objections, you have them in the right place, guys, okay? And we'll talk a little bit later about the psychology of sales, okay? So there's always going to be credibility objection or benefit. Does it make sense? Okay? So always listen to what they're asking. They say, well, how do we know? Is that benefits or credibility? That was a credibility, right? Always start with, I understand. Don't go answer right away. If you answer that question right away, you just lost, and you got to start all over. Okay? You got him to a position where he heard, and he had an objection. That's a perfect spot that you need to be in. However, at that position, if somebody asks a question and you respond to them immediately without acknowledgement, whatever you did prior to that, you're going to have to start all over. Okay? And given that, why don't I talk a little bit about how the sales works.